All right, family law this week. So here's the deal. We have a family law class, and I want to mention that to you guys because I know a lot of you are interested in it, and it's typically just offered in the fall. All right, let's talk prenups. So prenups are contracts between two people who are getting married because in the state of California we have community property. And if people don't want that to be the case, then they usually sign a prenup. So this might be where the parties have kids from other marriages, or they have some money coming into the marriage and they don't want it all to become kind of confusing and convoluted, so they do agreement before getting married. Here's an interesting one with Kim and Kanye, so I'll let you read that one on your own. And there's the site for it. So it's interesting because fewer people are getting married, but what marriage is defined as is the legally recognized union of two people. And we do now have marriage for same-sex and men and women. And because it's a legally recognized union, the parties get more legal rights. It's usually more protection in terms of owning property with right of survivorship. So if one person dies, the other person gets it automatically. That's specific usually to real property. Typically you can't be made to testify against your spouse. It's very general. Sometimes married people can also get special tax considerations as well. All right, so in order to get married, you have to be over a certain age. We'll look at the next slide for that. And we have to have mental ability to get married and have to consent to get married. You can't be forced to get married against your will anymore. At least not legally speaking. Okay, so in the state of California, the legal minimum age of consent for marriage is typically 18. With parental consent, there's supposedly no age limits, but if you look at this, the judge still has to agree. So the judge is going to kind of check the relative maturity, I guess you would call it, of the parties getting married. And the judge can require premarital counseling for people under the age of 18. If somebody was forced to get married by their families, they can get their marriage annulled, or if somebody else made somebody else marry them. But typically you're not allowed to force somebody to get married anymore. But if you are forced, you can get that annulled. Now, the other interesting thing in the state of California is the age of consent for sex is 18. And you notice in these other states, it is considerably less. So just something to keep in mind, because sometimes the district attorney's office will prosecute people for even having consensual sex under the age of 18 because the state of California considers that statutory rape. All right, the marriage ceremony. Typically you have to have it through the state in some way, shape, or form. So here's a marriage certificate in the state of California. This is what one looks like. And we already talked about same-sex marriage. Okay, common law marriage is not recognized in California. You can have a cohabitation agreement, but you can't typically live for usually 7 years in California and then have a common law marriage. You could have lived together in another state that recognizes common law marriage and then come to California, and then California might recognize that common law marriage. All right, annulment is saying that there was not a valid marriage, and the grounds are basically you're married to a brother, sister, or some sort of incestuous marriage where you have too close of a relationship, and that would be a void marriage. Also, another void type of marriage that could be annulled, and it would be like saying there was never a marriage, is if somebody had more than one wife in the state of California, or more than one husband. You can void, you can have a voidable marriage, based on age, unsound mind, force, fraud, and physical incapacity, which typically refers to a lack of being able to consummate the marital relationship, meaning not able to have sex. What is divorce? Okay, so it means you did have a marriage, but never ending that marriage. Annulment means you never had a marriage. We're basically saying you never had a marriage. And the difference is very important to some of our clients because of religious beliefs. So just something to keep into consideration. A marital settlement agreement. They're called separation agreements in your book, but in California we call them marital settlement agreements. And it's basically if you want to make agreements about where all the money is going or the debts are going when you get a divorce or the client gets divorced, you do a marital settlement agreement. And if you can't agree, then typically the judge decides for you or helps you decide. Okay, so there's only 2 grounds for divorce in the state of California. And one is irreconcilable differences, and that's typically what most people have to file under. And the court kind of just got sick and tired of hearing about, one side trying to make the other side look really bad all the time. So they just came up with irreconcilable differences. Now, incurable insanity. You could still stay married to somebody if they had incurable insanity, but you can use that as a grounds for divorce if you so desire. All right. Okay, I'll let you read that side on your own. All right, so in California, the general property distribution or division in general, because we're not going to get too many specifics because we're just doing a 1 week on family law. We're not spending a whole entire semester or a year on family law, is that it's 50-50. So once the parties are married, if one person stays at home and the other person goes to work, the person who goes to work, their salary is 50% the spouse's and 50% theirs. Okay? They buy something together while married, that is 50-50 theirs. So community property starts on the date of marriage and typically goes until they are separated. All right, child custody. The court's supposed to look at the best interest of the child. Child custody is a whole entire subject on its own. They get into a lot to the family law case. Very good case to take, but we just really don't have the ability to go into it into too much detail here. Typically, a court will give one side more physical custody than the other. Well, they used to in the past. Now they're getting more and more into 50-50 physical custody. And they've always pretty much been, for the last 15 years anyway, into joint legal custody, making those kind of legal decisions like doctor visits, that sort of thing, together. All right, visitation. So, like it says at the bottom, right here, the court might give one parent custody while the other parent is given visitation rights. And it's hard to limit somebody's visitation rights unless they have some sort of really bad criminal record or child molestation or sexual misconduct. with minors that is proven or evidenced. Okay, typically if the kid lives with one parent more than the other parent is supposed to help chip in for the cost of raising that child. Okay, adoption. There's a lot of adoption cases here in San Diego, and this is big business as well in terms of good thing to think about if you're looking for a job. There's a lot of legal work in adoption. Please don't forget to review your questions. Thank you.